And then I'm going to highlight here our speaker. And we're going to do this a little bit interview style here in the beginning. So welcome, Sacoby. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. I know you've got a big week, busy week, so really appreciate you.
No, thank you, Parisa. Really happy to be here. And yes, for everyone who's listening, this is Symposium Week. It's not New York Climate Week. That's next week, but it is Symposium Week, and it's our 11th one. And the theme is the people's agenda: resistance, resilience, and restoration. Right. So I think very powerful thing, very important moment for us, and I appreciate the opportunity just to share the stage with you, Parisa, and share with the audience, share with all of our friends, colleagues, family in the EJ movement, and just hopefully bring some energy. I'm the hype man. Give people, um, impassion, some responses just to help people in this moment in the fight. Get some of that, that shared energy that we need right now. So
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, I've had the opportunity to hear a bit of your backstory. We've interviewed you on the radio a couple times, but if you wouldn't mind, step back a little bit, share a bit more about yourself and what really led you to the environmental justice movement.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Mhm.
Yeah, so everybody, I'm son of Mississippi, state of Mississippi, from Mississippi, Vicksburg, Mississippi. And I was talking to somebody last week about Vicksburg, and his claim to fame is that's where Sherman, Battle of Vicksburg, won that battle. Very important part of the Civil War, and the Union didn't win that battle. We wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't be here. So that's Vicksburg's claim to fame. So from Vicksburg, Mississippi, I grew up near a concrete like rock crushing facility. It's not fence line to my neighborhood in Vicksburg. It's every time I get on the bus in the morning time to go to school, it'd be like a few minutes down the road. So really close, probably within half a mile of our house, less than a mile, half a mile of our house. And then there was a sewage treatment plant, and my mom always reminded me, son, don't forget the landfill. So these were the cluster of hazards that I grew up near. But of course, there's a major highway right down the street. And then my dad was a pipe fitter. So he used to work at Grand Gulf Nuclear Power Station, power plant. He had asbestosis. He would work at a lot of these, pollution intensive facilities like coal-fired power plants. And ironically, when we were looking at the public health impacts of fracking in Maryland, it was over 5 years ago, trying to ban frack gas in Maryland. We went to West Virginia to interview folks in West Virginia about the impacts of fracking on their health. And ironically, my dad was building a pipeline in West Virginia at the time. So, just interesting connections there. And then I have alopecia totalis, which is an autoimmune condition, baldness and patches. So as a little kid, wonder, what exposures, stressors led me to lose my hair. So that really got me interested in science. And then I went to Alabama Agricultural Mechanical University, HBCU, in Huntsville, Alabama, where the new Space Force, let me stop, has been moved to. It's been bad, y'all. And really got a chance to get some great mentoring from Dr. Rather Brown, Dr. Marjorie Campbell, Dean Schufer, College of Ag, Dr. Evelyn Ellis, head of honors department, also my English teacher, Mr. Brown, other folks, there as well. And that's some of my best mentoring. And so got a really good chance to learn about environmental science, got exposed to environmental health, did research, and I went to a conference in 1995. I think it's 1995. I had a chance to meet. I was a EPA MAI fellow, Moderate Associate Institution fellow, and I did an internship with the ECO program. Our former EPA administrator, he was an ECO intern. Mustafa Ali was an ECO intern. So a lot of folks in the environmental space were ECO interns. And at Elizabeth City State, 1995, I had a chance to meet Dr. Robert Bullard and Dr. Benjamin Chavis. And in that meeting, the light bulb went off. Like, okay, I'm gonna do EJ, environmental justice, for the rest of my life. So that's a little bit of background on me.
Thanks for sharing that. There's a lot of influences I heard in that. Um, Sacoby, we have like the last time we had a session like this, and Leslie Fields joined us. We were talking about sort of the boom times for the EJ movement, with the last administration and different executive orders that were being passed and funding that was being put in place. And now we're on the opposite end of that. Things have changed a lot for the EJ movement over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And we went from, like I said, an administration that at least was making public statements in support of environmental justice, that was putting funding into environmental justice, to one that is really even almost trying to criminalize even talking about environmental justice. I wonder if you could share a reflection on this moment for the EJ movement. What have we gained? What have we lost? Or what can we do in times like this to advance EJ? And I think within that, if you could speak a little bit to the toll that you've seen it take. Both the boom and the bust, I think, had a toll, to be honest. But
Yeah.
what's the toll, and yeah, what's your take on things right
I
now?
mean, that's a lot. That's You just gave me a turducken, Parisa. My turducken joke. That's a lot to kind of unpack. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, for those of you attending symposium, you remember, and we don't have like a fourth one in the series, but we had a three-part series. In 2022, we had the revolution will not be televised nor be funded. In 2023, we had a session called "There's EJ Gold Up in Them Hills," because to Barisa's point, on the good side of things, the toll it took. There's so many people all of a sudden. Oh, there's money in environmental justice, and that's actually it was justice washing. Just because you know that loves your alphabet EJ don't mean you're doing EJ. People were playing EJ, and the groups who are actually part of the problem, big institutions, big academic institutions, they started jumping in, and because they had the infrastructure, right, the shiny infrastructure to get the money, to get the grants out and get funded, the folks who got them, it was very extractive and colonial what happened under the last administration. Yes, it's like 40 years of culmination of a lot of work. You think about 1982, so plus 40 years, right, of that moment of Biden administration. I would say that administration did more for environmental justice than any administration in history of administrations, right? That's a low bar, though, right? But they did more. Did more than Obama, did more than Clinton, did more than the Bushes. And so they did more. But, that was just a down payment. What was owed 400 plus years of what was owed for folks, right? You've heard me say before, the stolen bodies of our African ancestors, the stolen lands of indigenous brothers, 400 plus years of what was owed. So an intergenerational injustice that was a down payment. The billions to the BIL and the RA were a down payment on what was owed to folks, right? Um, and you saw some things didn't get done well, right? They didn't roll out the money well. They didn't put the infrastructure in place well. And then they didn't engage the frontline fence line groups who were doing the work well. And they went with, in some cases, I'm saying I don't want to throw too many friends on the bus, but they went with who they knew. And it was a good old boy system, even when it came to EJ first having some real dollars to address some of the distributional justice issues, right? Now, if you fast forward to where we are now, Trump showed you what Trump 1.0 what he's going to do. And then, he gave us the playbook, right? He gave us the book and he said what he was going to do. So this dismantling of the environmental justice infrastructure at the federal level, shouldn't have been a surprise to anybody, right? They wrote it down. They said that's what they're going to do, right? And, there's a lot of work that went into building that infrastructure at the federal level. You think about Executive Order 12898, you think about NEJAC, the Office of Environmental Justice. Fast forward, fast forward into the Biden Harris administration, all the work. You have the IAC, you have the WEJAC, right? You have all that infrastructure that was in with one executive order was dismantled, right? And to your point about the witch hunt, the McCarthyism that's baked into the executive orders, you can't use certain words now. You got these dirty words, like George Carlin. What those of you remember George Carlin, the 7 dirty words or something like that. But these are not. EJ's a dirty word. DI is a dirty word. Race, talking about race is a dirty word. Helversbury is a dirty word. There's other dirty words too out there, right? There's a witch hunt. But even though there's this reckoning, that's happening right now. I don't think all is lost. Before there was all this federal funding, all this infrastructure, the EJ movement is still the EJ movement. It's still the movement of the people. So there's been a reset. We're back to in some ways, pre 1994 federal level support, but the movement itself is still there. And, over the last 40 plus years since, the Warren County PCB landfill of 1992, all the progress that's made in the last 30 years, again, think about the federal policy level, right? And the progress we made at the state level, we have more EJ organizations, authentic frontline defense organizations than we had, 10 years ago. We have more infrastructure at the local level than what we had 10 years ago. As Parisa mentioned, I helped to start the DMV EJ Coalition, which didn't stay together, they fell apart. Co-founded Midland Justice Coalition, which, some ups and downs, but that's still there. As Parisa also talked briefly about the TikTok, the Thriving Community Technical Assistance Center, it was illegally terminated, February 21st of this year. But that is, as Jerome Shabazz with the Oakbrook Center says all the time, the social architecture is still there. We have our relationships, we have our partnerships. Those things are still in place. So all is not lost. So, keep your head up. So what I've been saying, and y'all remember the theme of last year's symposium was Sankofa. Look backwards and bring it forward, right? Those lessons learned, we bring them forward. One of the things I'm also saying about in this moment, what we need to be doing, let's take account of where we are, right? And count our blessings and the progress that we made, and the fact that we're still here to be able to be in this fight. That's one thing. But also we have to play good offense, good defense. Good defense is taking care of yourself, right? You can't help others, you don't take care of yourself. That either be at the individual level or at the organizational level. So I was talking to Priest, so she asked me how I was doing. I just told her, I'm a little tired. I just went like an 8-mile walk today. I walked almost 8.6 miles yesterday. I walked 5 miles on Saturday. Like, I need to do a better job taking care of myself so I can be here to serve, to support, be here for my family first. Got to take family first, right? And be here for my EJ family. But if I don't take care of myself, I can't help anybody else. I got all kinds of health issues that I'm trying to do a better job of. Diabetes, heart disease, undiagnosed sleep apnea because I snore like a bear. He talked to Natasha about that. But yeah, so take care of yourself first. That's part of the defense. And in your organizations, take care of your house. We have to go into austerity mode. Make sure that your house, your organization is firm, is tight. We have to kind of, not necessarily go into turtle mode, but we have to set up a good defensive front. And part of this, taking care of yourself and taking care of your organization, taking care of your community, prioritizing those things first, and make those decisions that make the most sense for you and your org. On the offense side, this too shall pass, y'all. It's not the first time we had a racist in office as in presidency, right? It's not the first time we've had major rollbacks, right? Think about the history of this country. We move forward with Emancipation Proclamation. We go back. We got Reconstruction. We got post Reconstruction. As somebody who's obviously well, at least look like I'm a descendant of somebody who's enslaved peoples in this country. There's been a lot of back and forth. 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. 3 steps forward, 2 steps backward. These are major steps backward. I'm not saying I want to diminish what people are going through, what we're experiencing, but I think we gotta keep hope alive, keep our eyes on the prize, all those kind of those terms, right? And what is our vision for the future, right? So as we are part of our offense is what should we be doing now to make sure our infrastructure is durable, regardless of what's happening at the federal level. We should be focused on more self-sufficiency. As a quick aside, because y'all know me, I like to joke and bring in stuff. It's not nothing that's not serious, but this is the way I communicate. I told somebody I'm in my Booker T. Washington mode. For those y'all know Booker T. Washington, it's about self-sufficiency. I've been canning, making fig preserves, blackberry jam, applesauce, apple preserves, muscadine jelly. I'm making some more tonight. Just an example of self-sufficiency. But how does that look for our organizations, right? So we are not connected so much to federal dollars. How can we do things? We build our own infrastructure. It has to be durable. Regardless of what way, if the winds are at our back or the winds in our face, we have infrastructure that's durable, that's sustainable, that's gonna be fine. We got to get to that point. That's part of the office. And what does the future look like for us, right? What does the future look like for your community? How are we gonna make that happen? Build that plan. So we have to be planning for 2026. We should be on that right now as it relates to getting everybody out to vote, getting that apathy and turning that apathy into empathy, right? Getting that fear and turn that to hope. I'm giving y'all some of my opening comments for tomorrow for the symposium. But this is like what we need to be doing. So we need to change hearts and minds, but start at home. Start in your neighborhood, start in your organization, work with your staff, because staff are going through it, right? Work with your family, family's going through it, right? Work with yourself, whichever way that you deal with these issues, whether it be through faith, through meditation. I just told you I do gardening. I'm walking like I just told my mama I'm walking like I'm Forrest Gump, y'all. I'm gonna walk across America. You take care of yourself, take care of your family, but change your mindset in this moment. It's not over. The fight is not over. We still are in this. We have to get through the reckoning. We have to get through the reckoning together. My pastor said this, talking about this last weekend. We had to do things together. We're better together. How can we be better together? Right. That's part of the future. So working across our organizations, working across sector. I can keep going, Paris. So I know you got other questions, but
Yeah.
again, that's what durable infrastructure, working together, more collective, right? Taking care of yourself and having and being positive about the future and planning for the future. 2026, and the last comment, 2028. I think next year's symposium, as I told my Siege Inc. team, I think the next year's symposium is going to be, the theme is going to be 2028. We need to be planning for the 2028 now. And I'm saying that we have to plan. Like what we do would be one part of the larger plan, but we all should be planning and be pushing to make sure 2028 comes to pass and then shovel ready to implement the plan. Just the same way what you just saw with the Trump administration, what they did, and that's 40 years or 50 years since Reagan, right? We got to be doing that for 2028, 2030, 2035, 2040, working on a plan, building a plan, implementing. It's like building a house. Build the foundation first, right? 2026. Build another level, 2028. Build another wing, 2030. Build another floor, 2035, right? Build a house, build a room for your mother-in-law, 2040. Y'all get what I'm saying? I'll pass the mic back to you, Parisa.
I want to thank you, Sacoby. I mean, I think one of the things that you do really well is like you called yourself a hype man, so it's okay if I say it, but
Yeah.
you give us that energy that I think a lot of people took a lot from what you just said. So I want to talk about Siege. You're well known for the symposium that you said I think is in the 11th year. You've been at University of Maryland. You've been doing this work for some time, but I think in the last year or so, you've launched a new formation of your work with
Yeah.
the link I just put in the chat is your now nonprofit organization. Talk to us about your vision behind this, your goals for it, and also just tangible, what are you guys doing at this moment that people can plug into?
Thank you. What's that saying? Necessity is the something out. I forget that. You know what I'm
The
saying? I
mother of
had to do.
invention. Yes.
Say it again. Say it again, Parisa.
The mother of invention.
Yeah, exactly. So my challenges, in the academic system necessitated. I set up this nonprofit. Just real talk, y'all. You know, Audre Lorde talk about the master's tools. I'm gonna talk about you can't you can't get justice to an unjust system. That's just real talk, y'all. You heard me say before, and I'll slow down because I know I talk fast sometimes. Academic institutions, and I said it at the symposium for those who read the symposium last year, and I was railing on because I can rail on academic institutions. I can't rail on everything, but I can talk specifically about academic institutions. I was railing on the fact that academic institutions got a lot of to Paris's first question, one of the early questions about all the funding. They got a lot of that money. And I was like, how you gonna get that money when for the last 40 years, 50 years plus, you ain't been doing the work? You ain't earned the right to get that money. That's the people's money. The people doing the work that's the taxpayers' money. The people doing the work should have been getting that money. The frontline frontline communities, should have been getting that money. So there's been a lot of challenges working in a system that ain't for us by us. You know what I'm saying? Food booth, for those of you ever remember food booth. Working in a system that's extractive and colonial. Working in a system that's about pain pimping, y'all. Now, not saying everybody's doing it, but you got isolated folks like myself and others in academic institutes across the country that try to do good work. But the culture in these institutions is not about solving problems. It's about studying problems. You get billions of dollars of our money, right? And where's the return on investment in addressing our issues, man? What's the clean air? What's the clean water? What's the clean food, the safe food, right? Safe housing, transportation. Where's the basic amenities? Where's the changes in health? So I had to look at myself with all the challenges. Some of y'all know I've shared with y'all the challenges I've been experiencing. And again, I'm not the only one in academia that experienced these challenges. But I said I cannot do authentic EJ work in an academic setting. And I mean, uh, and I saw the writing on the wall with some of the work was doing was hidden. It was literally hitting the wall because of the lack of infrastructure support. I want to get into all the nitty gritty details, but many institutions do not have this. I'm gonna say it because you probably say, but did not have the infrastructure, systems, process, procedures, policies in place to support authentic justice work or support authentic community engaged work. So I did it out of survival, y'all, except the nonprofit. I moved a lot of the more empowerment science work to the nonprofit, the more policy work, advocacy work to the nonprofit. And I'm excited to flip this a little bit. I want to be glass half empty, be glass half full. I'm excited about the new nonprofit. I established in 2023, started hiring staff in 2024. And it's really about, getting at these core environmental, climate and justice issues, getting at the root causes of these issues like environmental racism, structural inequality, and really about, for those of you who remember the TIC-TAC, Thriving Through the Technical System, or even MATCH, we have the Mid-Atlantic Climate Action Hub, really about, as I said, doing science that serves. You heard me use the term empowerment, really being rooted in doing empowerment science. So bringing tools to community, not teaching people how, not fishing for folks, to teach them how to fish. So developing tools, frameworks, helping people build their own air quality monitoring networks, right? Helping people develop other types of tools that they can use to do their own science. So more community-driven science, the people science, okay? That's what in community science, that's what, and then also liberation science. So how do we work to help folks liberate themselves, right? This not no This not environmental missionaryism here. I'm not coming to help you community. I'm coming to support you, but not. I'm not coming in to save anybody. Say it that way. Support, right? So we provide technical assistance, capacity build support, right? That's the doing science that serves. I'm a servant, right? That's my spirit. That's my why. That's my ethos. The PhD is just a means. Is not the end. I'm a hustler for change and change for the people. And this nonprofit falls in that ethos, in that why, right? Making sure we're doing work to bridge and link, support frontline frontline communities, support those CBOs that are doing that work, and make sure that we're helping them implement their own community based solutions, right? So I hired, some of you met new staff, Chris White, my executive, the assistant executive director, Nikki Jackson, some of y'all met Nikki, who's a symposium coordinator. Jessica is the director of communications, doing some great work. Then we have multiple folks, Nam Pham is director of outreach engagement. Some of y'all know Vivek is director of research and policy. Then we got two outreach engagement specialists, Vanessa and Tamara. Y'all may know Tamara. She used to work with Queen at UPaul. And then Frederick Johnson is our policy specialist. So that's the team. And we're really about, our mission is about empowerment. And our vision is to, we envision just, equitable, and sustainable futures where all communities thrive in harmony with the land and each other. But folks are liberated from systems of oppression, fossil fuels, right? Dirty fossil fuels, dirty energy, and the extractive economy. And we want to make sure, as I said already, that environmental, climate, energy, and health injustices are eradicated. So that's our vision. And our values about we putting community first is about co-development. We want to be accountable. We want to lead with care in our work and for each other and to work with communities. And y'all have heard me say this before. I get my emotional nutrition working with communities, right? I get my energy in working with communities. I said to somebody recently, my best mentors are community folk, community leaders. Folks are dealing with the issues every day. And also other values we have about liberation, again, as I already mentioned, and joy. As y'all know, I'm a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. Want to bring joy to this work. Not goofy joy, because I am goofy, but joy, want to make sure we're all working together and we're having hope, love, joy, that type of energy in this work, because we need it in this moment, but we need it when we're in this struggle. It's not just a struggle in my lifetime, it's a struggle across multiple lifetimes. So you got to bring that joy to the table too. So I'll pass the mic back to you. One last
Yeah.
point, Teresa.
Yeah,
One
please,
more point.
please. Hmm.
And as it relates to our major programs, as you know, we have the symposium, which I'll talk about more. So that's a major program that's now under the bucket of the nonprofit. And also we have our Climate Justice Fellows program. So I'm really excited about that program because we're basically trying to build, the infrastructure, like, training up folks in the communities who come to these communities, train up folks to be part of this social justice movement, right? This environmental justice movement. And this year's cohort, I think we have like 70 plus folks. I forget the exact number because Nikki coordinates the symposium, but she also, helps, and she leads the climate symposium program. But this year we also had about 20 plus non-US fellows. So we had international fellows, which was really exciting for us. And most of those fellows came from are from the continent of Africa. So those are two of our main programs. Our education program, symposium, and the climate fellows program. We're doing some air quality monitoring work. Again, I brought Vivek over. He finished his PhD, brought him over to the nonprofit to help out with some of that. And then also, speaking of air quality monitoring work, one of our current projects, we're working in Memphis with Representative Pearson and his organization, with his brother, Justin Pearson and his brother, with MCAT to do some air quality monitoring near the Elon Musk facility in Southwest Memphis. So that's one of our newer air quality monitoring projects. So Siege Inc. is just not focused on the Mid-Atlantic. Working with some of the same partners like, Session Shin, SBCLT, Empower DC, Overbrook Center, SWIA, UPaul, IPL DMV, and others. But also we're doing work across the country. Go ahead, Parisa.
Beautiful. And speak to the symposium a bit more. So is it too late for folks who have not registered to participate in the symposium? And what are some of the highlights you're looking most forward to? I put the link in the chat.
It's not too late for in-person. Unfortunately, in-person registration is closed. We met our hotel cap, which is great. I think I forget the number Nikki told me today, but it's pretty good. But virtual registration is still open. So if you want to do and there will be just want to say there's no on-site registration, y'all. If you want to do in person, it's too late for in person. But if you want to join virtually, because it's hybrid. So symposium it starts tomorrow. Tomorrow's our virtual day, and so we'll have full day virtual sessions. We'll have an open reception tomorrow night, and then Thursday through Saturday will be our hybrid. So there'll be in person components, and then individuals who want to join virtually can join online. But we have a great agenda. We have some fabulous keynote speakers, like Dr. Jalan White Newsom, formerly head of the EJ program at the Council of Environmental Quality, Dr. Robert Bullard, known to many as the father of the environmental justice movement. We have Wawa Gathuru, a Black girl environmentalist. I did a little bit of mentoring about her, mentoring of her before she did her Fulbright Rhodes, one of those big fellowship things she did. Yeah, so when I met her as a Utah scholar. So we got this great lineup of keynote speakers. There are a lot of great sessions that we'll have sessions on air quality work. We have a lot of the one thing about symposium, everyone is it's not like a normal conference like you have like invite. It's more like a closed event. It's invite only because we're actually having a lot of our community partners are doing the work. I already mentioned the groups: SWIA, CAF. I didn't say CAF before. So Jay Boy familiar. SWIA, UPaul, Empower DC, SBCLT in Baltimore. There are gonna be a lot of sessions that are gonna be community organized and community led. So it's really about sharing what's happening in the Mid Atlantic, right? And so giving updates and what's happening in Washington, D.C., what's happening in Baltimore, what's happening in Philadelphia. We have Black from Pittsburgh. They do a lot of work on environmental issues in Pittsburgh, so we have that coverage. So we're going to have a lot of sessions of our community partners. We're going to have faith-based sessions because we want to bring that in. We're going to have sessions on urban heat issues, so climate change issues, air pollution, community-based Pittsburgh research, community science sessions. We'll have a lot of training sessions on climate action planning, grant writing training, and then also getting back to the theme, we're gonna have sessions that really talk about resistance. How do we resist in this moment, right? We're gonna have sessions about being resilient because it's really important for us. Again, you have the individual level of resiliency, but how can we be resilient as a group, right? Collective resilience, and then restoration. The part of the restoration, think about restoration, y'all. How to restore ourselves, kind of build yourself back up because we've been drained. You seeing friends and family being broken by what's happening. We're seeing friends and family being lost who are dying. We're seeing friends and family being invisibilized, disappeared, right? ICE, or because they're afraid, the fear, right? How can we restore some normalcy? How can we restore that sense of togetherness? And then how can we restore this democracy? Because environmental justice, y'all, think about it. We are actively engaged in making democracy work. And to make a democracy work, it takes what, y'all? It takes work. So we are literally, we've always been fighting for democracy for all folks, particularly those who've been left behind, invisibilized, marginalized, right? Or forgotten. But that's what we're doing. So how do we restore this democracy? How do we restore the American dream for folks who've always been, the American dream has been, kind of delayed, deferred, stolen from them? That's this restoration. And how do we repair? So think about restore and repair. How do we repair our bonds with each other? How do we repair this country? I'm not saying that's all on the symposium. That's a lot to put on, an event like that. But these are things we're going to be talking about and thinking about. And tonight we have a session, a pre-symposium session that Vernice Miller Travis, Mary England Lotto, some others are going to be part of about civil rights. And so how do we get back to the rule of law? Because the laws have been constantly broken, as we know right now. And we're in
That's right.
bizarro world, upside down. So that's a lot of things about the law will also be talked about and how we move forward at the symposium. Go ahead, Parisa.
Thanks, Jacoby. We're gonna take questions from the chat here in a minute, so feel free to put questions in there. But as you all are doing that, and I saw a couple in there, just reflecting on your tenure in the EJ movement, I'd love to hear some of the highlights or success stories, models that you've seen, things that you just consider to be, very successful or impactful, that you, whether you were part of them or not, things that you witnessed, things that you were part of. For instance, are there specific campaigns that you want to shout out, or policy initiatives, or ways in which health and science practitioners worked with community, that you might want to just lift up as some of these models to build upon?
Yeah, there are a lot of great models out there. I mean, I would say one of the groups I don't talk about enough, and is as a model on we think about environmental justice, we talk about stopping stuff, but then also how do we build, right? On the building side, Harold Mitchell, Regenesis Project in South Carolina. Y'all may not have heard of Harold Mitchell. He was a state representative. I was at University of South Carolina before I came to Maryland. Uh, Spartanburg, Arkwright neighborhood, lots of Superfund sites, chemical hazards. I mean, hazardous facilities. Family members were dying. He was poisoning himself. They were able to take a weed and seed grant, I think about $20,000, and over the span of 20 plus years now, they've leveraged into $300 million of investments in our community. Okay, that's a model of how you build, right? How you build. I think in one symposium I talked about, when Black Panther came out, we talked about Wakanda Forever, right? And how we build our Wakanda, how we build an ecotopia. That's an example of how you build sovereignty, right? How the vision that you have in your community and how you can grow it. That's a super example, right? I would say that even though it's been dismantled on the federal policy level, NEJAC, National Environmental Justice Advisory Council, that's a definite example. We've had a lot of NEJACs commissions across the country. Not all have been effective, right? I'm on a commission for Maryland Commission on Environmental Justice and Communities. That's more off the NEJAC. Almost many of our states have NEJACs. You have like some type of commission or council. Some are effective, some are ineffective. But that's a good model, right? The Office of Environmental Justice at EPA. It's been dismantled, but I said to Charles Lee, we all still here, right? We can rebuild. It's like Legos, y'all. You dismantle it, you disassemble, we real simple. Avengers will be real simple. Okay, NEJAC, National Environmental Justice Advisory Council. That was the first federal factor on environmental justice at the EPA. WEJAC is the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council. It was modeled after NEJAC, but it was for the whole federal family, right? So you got NEJAC, you got WEJAC, you got Office of Environmental Justice, you got Regenesis. You got work locally, right? At the local level, we did work in Bladensburg some years ago to help. Some people didn't like it, but the concrete plant for being expanded, right? Because we're doing hyperloop air quality monitoring. Look in New Jersey, the sort of like the gold standard for cumulative impacts legislation is the New Jersey bill. That's something that it took them 10 plus years to get that bill passed. But this too shall pass. We can say it, we can phrase it that way. Bills that you're trying to get passed, if you stick with it, this too shall pass, y'all. That's a different way to use that phrase. I get it in a positive way. But we can pass these bills, get these bills passed. You just gotta stick to it and have the right champions, right? So you got that. I mean, the work in the region, working with Fred Tubman, on the Pawtucket River Keeper, all the great work he's doing. That's a model, right? You think about Bladensburg. I mean, I talked about Bladensburg, got Brandywine, the stopping the coal ash landfill from getting a new permit, working down in Lamsey, low country launch model communities. We helped them to shut down the incinerator and help them get a mitigation agreement. There's been some small wins, not all the wins we want, but I think in Baltimore, I played a very small role in helping Free Your Voice in their fight against the Energy Incinerator. And it shows, and Destiny Warford won an environmental award in 2016, and she was a high school student. So her example shows the power of one person, high school student, right? So you don't have to give up. You don't have to have a you don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to have no credentials. Credentials are means, y'all. They're not the end. Y'all already got the means. If you live in a community, you got the contextual expertise and the knowledge, right? That's part of the best practices, Parisa. Like community folk, cultural community knowledge systems been uplifted and let community folks drive the work. That is the best practice. That comes coming back to so those young men I know, Mebane, North Carolina. I worked in Mebane in grad school with Omega Wilson. They came with a framework called community owned and managed research. Again, you don't need to have an academic researcher to do your research. You can do your own research. Anybody can be a scientist. It's just a scientific method, y'all. Yeah, 5-year-olds using a scientific method. It's not rocket science. It's just making sure that we value and respect the folks who have the knowledge and doing that work. So those are things that I've learned in my years is to let the community lead. Community can own and manage the research. Work with Western Revitalization Association. Other examples of work. Just in our Mid Atlantic Climate Action Hub. I think that hub framework of approach, Parisa, we weren't able to do everything we want to do. But I think, as Jerome said, we built a social architecture. So using hubs is a really good way to work together because I may have strengths here and may not have strengths there. You may have strengths there and may not have strengths there. Together, though, again, that working together, that is an example. That to me is, I'll stop and pass the mic back. But I think, how can we work better together? And work and leverage our strengths, a weakness for one person is an opportunity for another group to support. And what I'm saying, a weakness for another group is another opportunity. So how can we do that? And I think our hub is an example that we can build off of as we move forward. And we need to be creating more hubs and also supporting those anchor institutions. Another thing that we've learned at the local level, who may not do EJ work, but are doing God's work in the community. So how can we activate and connect to those groups who are those anchor institutions, like those churches, those schools, those community centers? That's another thing I've learned over the years. So I'll pass the mic back.
Well, I think everything you just said spoke wholly to a question that we had in the chat from Sheila, who asked, can you provide examples of what we need to do to build infrastructure? How do we start co-creating? And I think everything that you just said, but
Yeah.
if there's anything else you want to add for her question.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, work with those anchor institutions who are already actively working with our youth, working with our seniors, work with those direct aid and direct service organizations. They are part of they're the lifeblood of many of our neighborhoods. And I think that's the first. They're like that just like that infrastructure that's there, foundational. That's the place to start.
We have a question in the chat from Veronica, who's asking to share your perspective on the intentional removal of African American women from the workforce, public and private. She says, Dr. Kenneth Olden shared with me months earlier that Black women are a huge threat to our current federal administration. I didn't realize how accurate he was.
Dr. Olden, I probably wouldn't be here without some of his leadership with getting funding as a grad student. Yeah, so now you think about the federal workforce, what is done for Black women in actually those leadership positions. Like who do you see proportionally in the federal workforce, and how this attack on DEI, right? It's an attack on the federal workforce. It not only it's removing Black women, but it's going to destabilize Black communities, right? Because of that. So that if you want to kind of think about that, that part of the tapestry that you want to unravel, you pull that string, everything else falls apart. And you think about the EJ movement, even though I'm a big face and a big voice because how my personality, the EJ movement is mostly women and a lot of Black women. So if you target women of color, and specifically going back to the question, you target Black women, you're going to not just destabilize those federal offices, but you're going to destabilize communities that they live into. So we got to find a way to address, and I think part of it is, and this is there was, I think maybe I see Pamela's online, maybe some other folks have said this to me. Like the federal government, working for the federal government was a guaranteed job with benefits, right? lifelong job benefits, and you think about a lot of the prosperity you see for Black folks in the DMV region is because of working at these federal jobs. So that is going to destabilize those kind of local economies too, right? And so we got to figure that out because he's wrecked the federal system. So how do we rebuild it? How do we build it better? And just I'll say some past mind because there's other questions. Last week in one of our pre-symposium sessions, Dr. Beverly Wright, one of the mothers of the EJ movement, she did a session on 20 years after Hurricane Katrina, because she's from New Orleans, Deep South Center for Environmental Justice. And she said, we don't want to build back better. We want to build forward better. So how can we build forward better? What does it look like? Okay, I'll stop there.
I like
Thanks for
that.
that question.
Dr. Phoenix has asked, in your view, has EJ changed since the principles were drafted? Are there ways in which it needs to change to be equipped to face new challenges or leverage newly impacted communities?
Oh yeah, no, great question, Dr. Fix. I think EJ has evolved over the years, and more issues have been brought up, and then also, EJ is not just yeah, I mean, it impacts a lot of folks of color. It's not just a folks of color issue. We have rural white folks who impacted by environmental justice, particularly think about energy country, right? And think about all the rollbacks of those federal grants. It really impacted a lot of red states, rural areas that are dealing with extreme poverty, but also dealing with a lot of environmental hazards, right? So I think you see, under the Biden Harris administration, we saw a water tent through CJIS, Climate and Justice Screening Tool, and so that the environmental injustices cover not just urban areas where you have a higher proportion of folks of color, but also our, white brothers and sisters, also the impacts on indigenous brothers and sisters too. But how it needs to evolve, we have to be everywhere. We just can't be in academia. I mean, like me, I'm just talking about myself, like folks like me in academia. We just can't be, leading frontline, fence line nonprofits. We need to be engaging good socially benefit focused companies, corporations. We didn't make sure we're on boards. We didn't have C4s. How many EJ C4s we got out there, y'all? I don't know many. Where are C4s at for 2026 and 2028? We need to be working with unions. We talked about the Blue Green Alliance. We have to do more with unions, more with teachers, right? More with those frontline workers. So more, because when I said the principles of environmental justice, Dr. Andre Kidd Taylor, who used to be at Morgan State, she passed. How many years ago? It's been 7, 8 years. She helped to write the principle on occupational justice. We got to focus on workers more, y'all. And that's the place we've been doing some work. I know Maria's online. She's been working with workers on chicken processing plants, some Haitian and Spanish speaking workers, but workers also more on children's health is another place we can go. NSAID Witherspoon with Children's Environmental Health Network. Also internationally, we got to be working across borders. That's why you heard me mention the Climate Justice Fellows Program. We have fellows in I think in South America, Africa, and also Southeast Asia, I believe, in Europe. So we need to be working internationally too, and we need to also be trying to kind of connect with other disciplines. I mean, like in academics, I'm an academic, other disciplines, but also making sure that we're engaged with other types of institutions. Okay, so healthcare, we need to be engaging with healthcare. That's a place. We need emergency workers, emergency responders. We need to be engaged with them. Folks are doing, homeland security type organizations, working with them because you communicate be secure if you're being poisoned. You communicate be secure. You got people dealing with health inequities. You can't communicate be secure when people don't have jobs. So we gotta think about safety, public safety in a different way. So there's different places that we can do more, but I think corporate engagement is one place, international engagement another place, and making sure we're just not doing advocating in one way. We need to be advocating in multiple ways. And I think C4 is a place. And then again, work with workers. Okay, I'll stop there.
Yeah, and I'll just add, the land use arena. So anything with land use planning and zoning and all of that development, that's an area that we've been trying to have some impact. So
Well, that's where EJ meets the road. I mean, rubber meets the
yeah,
road, right? So zoning, planning, I say inequities in planning and zoning, driving environmental justice. So equity in planning, zoning, development, will advance environmental justice. So any comprehensive plans,
Yep.
master plans, planning boards, zoning commissions, that is actually where the power is, y'all. Thank you, Parisa, because I mean, I can't believe I forgot to mention that. Because one of my fraternity brothers, Carlton Italy, who's a planning officer, said Shikobi is called planning. It's not called accident. It's not called. It's called. What is it? It's called planning. What's that statement, Pamela? What is Carlton? I messed it up. It's but it's not by accident. I messed the whole thing up. But it said I'll remember it later. I'll put it in the chat. But basically said when you ever see these issues with communities being gentrified, it's not by accident that's happened, right? Communities being dumped on, it's not by accident. And a lot of it is built into the comprehensive plan or the master plan. Yeah, go ahead, Parisa.
Okay, so Samantha Beers is on the line, and she just made a comment in the chat. Thank you for mentioning gathering allies from business and industry unions and others. We really need to reach across the table. And for those who don't know Samantha, she spent at least 20 years, was it Samantha? Or
30 years?
30 years at EPA.
33, but who's counting?
Who's counting? Exactly.
Nobody.
33 years at EPA and is in doing legal work now. And then Sabrina was asking, what is a C4? Do you want to just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, basically when you have you have 501c3s who do like nonprofits, and the C4s, they have the capacity to do more of that kind of direct lobbying with legislators. And so I don't know how many C4s. Yeah, as a nonprofit, I think you can do up to maybe 15% of your time legally. You can do lobbying, right, Parisa, without crossing the line.
Something like that.
Like 10 to 15% of the time.
We're not giving legal advice right now.
Yeah, we're not giving, but we need to have more C4. So when it's time to get out the vote, when it's time to push on legislators, when it's time to this 2026 campaign season, time for 2028, we don't have. I don't know. Do we have a C? Do we have EJC4s in DC and the DMV in Maryland and the Mid Atlantic? We need more C4s.
Mm-hmm. Right, the groups that can actually run candidates, support candidates, which we can't do a C3.
Yeah, can't do. Well, you can't do. Yeah, can't do. So that's
not officially. I did actually learn the other day that Free DC, which is a growing, local organization around the federal encroachment on the city, does have a C4. Okay. So they launched a C3 and a C4, so that'll be interesting to see.
And that's to add to the add to the other who do we engaging with? And thanks, Samantha, for being online. We got to work more with lawyers too. That's another place that I was talking to Omega Wilson, one of my community mentors, again from wherever, say he would go into town council meetings, he would feel naked. You have a lawyer, you're no longer feeling naked. I told a lawyer recently, it's like having an umbrella. It's raining. A lawyer is your umbrella. Okay. So we need to work more with lawyers. Go ahead, Parisa.
No, agreed with that. We have a couple of legal partners, but it's definitely an area where I think there's tons of need. And let me just shout out real quick that here in DC, Legal Aid did take a case, an Ivy City resident directly impacted by the NEP facility. I think most of the people on the call know we've been working to shut down NEP, which is a legacy polluter spewing carcinogens in the Ivy City community. They did take a case on behalf of the neighbor and file that in court. That's pending now. We've been working with Earth Justice and a firm called Baker Bots to help navigate some of these air quality permit or emissions permit processes and appealing some permits, which as far as we can tell, there's not even a history of appeals of these permits here in DC. So, and I think, it's a challenge because on the one hand, we want to try to engage with these regulatory processes. At the same time, Sacoby, we keep coming against what you said in the beginning, which is that you can't really get a just outcome from an unjust system. So we use this to really educate ourselves about the injustice of the system and then shape the solution. So shape what is the regulatory change or the policy change or the community action that needs to take place to make it just. But we do that now from an informed position because we've attempted to work, within these realms that the city is claiming this is your recourse. This is the path to get heard. Mm-hmm. So, Sacoby, we didn't have any other questions and we're at our time, but I do want to ask you to end us, with some closing comments. And John Young who's with DOEE here in the chat is saying, thank you for the positive, sobering, yet hopeful call to action, and shout out to my fellow gardening and canning folks.
Oh yeah.
And Dr. Phoenix, congrats on your CEHN recognition. Absolutely. Congrats.
Yeah, congrats, Dr. Phoenix. Is that the Science Award? Did she get the Science Award this year?
I don't know which one it was. Somebody want to put in the chat or let us know. Pamela.
Yeah,
Mrs.
I'm not sure which one it is either, to be honest.
Okay. Good. Congrats, Dr.
But I was grateful to get it.
Yeah, congrats.
Ellie's on the call.
Oh, say that again, Pamela?
Ellie is on the call. Yeah,
I'm double checking real quick, but I'll put it in the chat once I find
Okay, cool.
it.
Thank you for that. Yeah, just to close out. Yeah, as I said, y'all. I mean, it's a tough time, and I know. I mean, I'm not losing my job like a lot of our friends and family lost their jobs. Right, been rifts, and it's a tough time in the DC area. I do think that, you know, I'll use the phrase differently. This too shall pass. I use it differently earlier, right? This too shall pass. We have to do it, but we have to work. We have to be bold together. That was like a theme from a Thunder conference. But how do we be bold together in the moment? How do we fight for each other in the moment, right? And I think, you know, take care of yourself. It's very important to take care of yourself. You know, losing friends and family, you know, people think about the pandemic. We were losing people during the pandemic because of the stress, right? This is a very stressful time. So take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your organizations, take care of your institutions, right? I think that's what we need to focus on, and then build that plan so we can build forward better, in the words of Dr. Wright. And those are my final words. I'll see y'all hopefully at the symposium. You can't make it in person because we're maxed out. You can join virtually. And I'm sorry, we have to pay this year. It's a nonprofit, y'all. We're not trying to make money. We're just trying to. We're not even gonna break even. We're just not to be that broke. Okay, so we had to put a fee on the symposium. But hopefully you're able to join. But we're gonna have great sessions. And just looking forward to working with everybody as we move as we move forward, like Dr. Wright said, build forward better, and let's do that working together. Okay.
Thanks so much, Sacoby. And yeah, everybody on this call is part of community. So let's, you know, continue to connect with each other, support each other. And in that light, I see Tanae has her hand up, and I think she has a quick announcement before you all hop off. Tanae?
Yes, thank you, Parisa. Thanks, Sacoby, for being here and sharing all of that information. Wanted to just highlight that, like Sacoby said, out of necessity, losing 2 jobs or 3 jobs within the last year, I launched my own organization. I'm having an organization launch this Saturday at 14 Park, where we will also be giving away food supplies, clothing, and shoes donations to Ward 7, Ward 8 community members. I put the chat in the link in the chat, and so if you know anyone who's in need, send them out. If you feel like coming out, please do. And I want to just thank Parisa, Empower DC, We Act for being sponsors, and Young Gifted and Green, Casey Trees for being sponsors of the event. I'm looking forward to collaborating with other organizations in the future. Thank you.
Congratulations, Tanae.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you at the symposium, online or in person. See you then.
Thanks.
All right.
Y'all take care.
Thank you for all you do.
Yep. You're welcome. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.